The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 933. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. If you're tired of being the best-kept secret in your industry, listen up. You don't need to be louder, you need to be seen. Grab my free Visible Framework Toolkit, the exact steps I use to go from overlooked to being the go-to expert people turn to for impact and insight. Download it now at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Well, hello friend, welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have an amazing woman on the show today. She is the head of gaming and apps strategic partnerships and industry solutions for Google, and I'm super excited to have her on to share her story on confidence. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Moonlit Beshimov. Moonlit, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Sheena. It's a pleasure to be here. Very excited. A little bit more about my role. I've been tech and gaming my whole life. Currently, I lead strategic partnership for gaming apps across Google, which means I work across Google's portfolio of products, Google Cloud, YouTube, Ads, Google Play, to really think about how do we help the gaming industry and the app industries thrive. I also joke with people that my job is to help giant corporations innovate and move fast together. So part of what I do is also lead AI and digital transformation with some of these Fortune 500 companies of the two industries.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And Moonlit, what's your cultural background?
Probably can't tell from my name, Moonlit Beshimov. People always joke how people see you, it's like, what? You're actually Asian with a name like that. And also I'm Chinese. So very different from my last name. So Beshimov is actually my husband's last name. I was born in China. I immigrated to San Francisco when I was 12 years old. I went to high school, middle school on the West Coast, and then college and business school on the East Coast, and now back in Los Angeles. Been, like I said earlier, been in tech my whole life.
Thanks for sharing that. And what'd be your favorite self-confidence quote?
I've been thinking of this a lot. I actually distinctly remember the moment when I first encountered this quote. It hit me like, aha, that makes perfect sense. It is, be brave, not perfect. It was also the book title by the founder of Girls Who Code. Her name is Reshma Saujanican. So she came to Google for a talk. This is like early in my career, maybe the first 2-3 years at Google. And then one of my colleagues, she came to me. She was so excited. She said, hey, I just heard the most amazing tech talk ever. And she put her book on my table. And then the book title was Be Brave, Not Perfect. You actually don't have to listen to her talk or read the book to understand like why that makes perfect sense. You know, our whole life as an Asian woman, as a daughter with parents with very high expectations and of, very demanding education style. Perfect has always been what I thought good looks like, which is actually, what held me back. And then that quote almost like released me, be brave, not perfect. So whenever I feel like, okay, I don't have the perfect answer, I haven't prepared enough, I tell myself this, hey, be brave, not perfect. Just say whatever's on your mind. And that's really helped me tremendously to gain more confidence in myself and how I come across.
Thanks for sharing that. And I love that quote. It's such a great reminder that, especially perfection is such a myth. And like you mentioned in Asian culture, it's like instilled in us to be like the perfect daughter, wife, sister, friend, whatever that looks like. And it takes a toll on us. And because of that perfectionism, we tend to resist, we tend to hold back, we tend to delay ourselves, not realizing that it's never going to be perfect. And even if you look at, some of the most influential people in the world, they didn't get to where they are today because they waited for that perfect moment. They were just brave enough to do it, and whatever the outcome was, they either made it happen or learned from it, pivot, and move forward. So I always mention about, the strategy ready, fire, aim, which is kind of like the same thing. Start before you're ready, take action, and pivot as you go. And that's how we get results, not by waiting for perfection, but by being brave, being okay with imperfection, moving forward, making mistakes, pivoting, course correcting to get to that end result. So thank you so much for sharing that quote. And how would you define self-confidence?
I think I would say start with self acceptance and self love. Confidence is such a loaded word. People say, have confidence, be confident. But how do you be confident if you don't feel it? Right? It's almost like a negative downward spiral. And then the more you panic about it, the less confident you appear. For me, confidence just means accept you as who you are, and that's totally okay. That's good enough. And if you accept that, if you are more not forgiving, but more accepting, like things you would say to your best friend, say it to yourself. I hear this quote a lot, but it's actually also true in the realm of confidence. And if you're more comfortable with yourself, even if you don't feel confident, you appear confident. And that translates to a positive feedback loop. And you become more confident because you grow into your skin, you grow into your authentic self. And then the comfort comes with that, becomes confidence before you even realize.
Thanks for sharing that great definition. And Moonlit, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
I actually have a great story about that too. When I first came to America at age 12, I didn't speak a word of English. And then I started middle school, and one day a friend of mine, a friend I thought, came to me and said, "Hey, you know what? We can't be friends anymore because your English and your accent's so bad. I feel embarrassed being with you." So my whole life, I was afraid of speaking in front of people, public speaking, and all that. And I didn't think, hey, you know what? I'm still smart. I get good grades. It's not going to impact me negatively anyway. Until college, I was part of an Asian American dance troupe, and all my classmates wanted me to run for the basically the equivalent of class president, like the troop captain. And I refused, not because I didn't love the community, I didn't have the leadership skills, because to be a captain, the troop leader, you have to make a 2 minute speech at the year end show. And it's just 2 minutes, which is nothing, right? And because of that, I opted out of a leadership and growth opportunity. And that's when I realized, you know what, this is holding me back. So from that point on, I actually proactively sought after fear-inducing situations like public speaking, speaking at events, talking to a group of people, sharing about myself. And then the more I do it, the less scary it becomes, the more comfortable I become in those situations, and comfort turns into confidence. And then that's now I speak at industry events to thousands of people. I talk about, I go on TED Talks and tell other young women the importance, just raise your voice and speak up and be brave and not perfect. And actually, I love it. It's something I teach my daughter too, to do, like face that fear head on, because that's the only way it gets easier. It does not fade over time. The only way is to recondition your brain that it's actually not so scary, and you do it over and over again in a higher stake situation. And that's how you develop confidence.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that story. I know a lot of the listeners will probably relate to that because, especially being in North America, migrating to a new country, not being able to speak English, having an accent. A lot of people think if you have an accent, you're seen as not smart, not realizing you know a whole new language that a majority of the people can't even speak, and here you are, you can speak not one, but two, at least two languages, not realizing, we have more to offer. And I'm glad you were able to speak up. And I know how that feels like the first time you speak up, you're like, yeah, 2 minutes is small, but 2 minutes when you're scared is like a lifetime. I totally understand that. I just recently did a TEDx talk and I was given 5 minutes and I was happy. Like 5 minutes was enough, but even then, 5 minutes was a lot of preparation to give the most impactful speech. And so I relate when you have that fear, like, oh my goodness, it's like the longest 2 minutes of my life. And you have anxiety, butterflies in your stomach, all the nerves and anxiety, but I'm glad you were able to push through. And what was that point in your life when you realized, especially like being in gaming, right? When you look at the numbers of Asian women in gaming, it's very small. What made you decide to just go for it and be in this industry? What was that aha moment for you?
It's actually realizing gaming is a women's industry. I started with social gaming on Facebook and the mobile gaming. The latest stats, if it's actually pretty surprising. So gaming industry itself is a almost 200 billion industry. It's bigger than the movie industry and the music industry combined. People don't realize that. And 46% of the 3.6 billion players are all women. So it's actually in everybody industry, everybody's sport. But if you think about gaming, somehow we still envision this, 20-year-old dude in his parents' basement with huge headphones. But actually, if you play word games on your phone, you're a gamer. If you watch and love Mario movie, Last of Us, you're a gamer. And that's something like I really want to become, to really voice that, to really own up to that, that we do have a place, we do have our opinion matters because half the industry is all women. So I started in the gaming industry. Actually, it's funny because my Asian parents never wanted me to play games. So I would pretend to be doing homework on my computer and I would have like game window open on the side. So I fell into it after college and I just never left. I love that the industry is very future forward, very innovative. Don't take yourself too seriously, very experimental. And then, yes, there are very few of us Asian women in the gaming industry and also in leadership position. But because of that, there's that sense of community, camaraderie, sense that we're making change from within. And then you see now I talk to young women who are in high school, in college, they want to join gaming as a profession. And just seeing that there's a possibility of that, you don't, break all the stereotypes and expectations. Anything you want to be, a finance person gaming, you can be. You want to be a business person gaming, you can be. You want to be a coder, you can be. Like anybody you want to be, any other industry, you can do the same gaming. So I want to be that example and get the word out there that, you can thrive as a woman, as an Asian woman in the gaming industry because it is the everyone industry and it should be.
I love that. And I didn't even realize what a big industry gaming is. When you said 200 billion, I was like, wow, that's huge. And when you think about it, I think people, and I also think like people just have this like narrow vision of what gaming looks like. They think it's like, Call of Duty, all those things, but really, like you mentioned, it could be the games on our apps, right? Like Sudoku, you know, those are all gaming, right? Like people don't realize gaming is actually really big because it goes beyond that. It's like the games on your phone, the games you play, the games, educational games that the kids play. So it makes sense that it's a $200 billion industry because it's for all ages and for everybody. And when we see it from that perspective, yeah, I could see why it's bigger than the movies and music combined because this is something that everybody does, right? Everybody has some form of game on their phone. I know I do. And that's really what gaming is. So I love that you mentioned that. I love that you mentioned it's a $200 billion industry. Almost half of gamers are women, which makes sense. And that you're here paving the way. And because of that, what's your life been like now?
Life is great. I mean, the gaming industry is back to growth. COVID was tremendous, and after COVID, there was this kind of a slump, saw negative growth the first time in I want to say maybe 20 years, a decade at least. It was a decade of double-digit growth, and then like suddenly became flat. But this year, past year, it's back to growth, and there's a lot of excitement about AI. And Google being at the intersection of gaming and AI as my role. So I get to think about how can we use and leverage and strategize around AI responsibly, mindfully, thoughtfully to really change the industry for the better. How do we make sure the industry is diverse, inclusive, but also feels personal, relatable to each player? And it's something that it's a vision that AI can help realize, and at the same time, reduce costs, increase accessibility, make it more welcoming to people of different skill level sets. So that's a vision I'm very excited about. And I feel very fortunate to be in that space at the intersection of technology, art, innovation, and be able to help drive change and shape the industry for the better.
Thanks so much for sharing that. And I love that, you're here paving the way and showing other women what's possible, especially in gaming, and definitely just stepping up as a leader. I know it's not always easy at times, but it's needed, of course, and also utilizing AI because right now there's a huge gap between men and women utilizing AI. We definitely need more women embracing it. I mean, I love using AI. I think it's a great tool. And like anything, it's a tool. If we use it for good, good things will come out. If we don't use it for good, of course, not so good things come out. It's the same thing as using money. Money is a tool, right? But people have this notion that money is evil when really it's not the money, it's how you utilize the money. So I'm glad you're paving the way for gaming and AI. And if there's a woman who's listening to your episode and they're in a similar journey to self-confidence, what would be that one tip you would give to them?
Besides, be brave, not perfect. I think it's like a very, very nice mantra. It's simple, it's easy to remember, and really change your mindset. Besides that, I would say if you're thinking about something in your mind and think, oh, it's probably not what people are thinking. It doesn't matter if I bring this up. Still say it because chances are there's somebody in that room thinking of the exact same thing and too afraid to speak up. So you're speaking not for you, but for the other voices who don't feel empowered. So you think about that, your voice matters.
I love that because I talk to a lot of women who are always afraid to speak up at meetings because they think, oh, this idea sounds stupid. People are going to reject it. People are going to laugh at me. And it's funny because the person beside them says the same exact idea and gets praised for it. And so I love that you mentioned just say it anyways. I mean, sometimes I'll even start with, this may sound stupid, but I would love to share it, right? Like even that, I'll start with that. And it's so important to speak up, right? Because if we don't speak up, we become invisible. Nobody notices us. And especially in Asian culture, we've always been taught to work hard, work hard, work hard. And it's like working hard is not enough, right? Working hard is not going to get you the promotion. Being able to work hard, being able to share your achievements, being visible in the right spaces, that's how you get those opportunities. So I'm glad that you mentioned that because I think it's so important. I think it's a great reminder, especially to a lot of women who still fear to speak up in meetings or fear to share their ideas. So thanks for sharing that. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
I would say my LinkedIn probably most up to date. I'm not really on Facebook or Instagram. I'm a passive consumer, but LinkedIn is where I built my community, where I spend most of my online networking time on.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that to our listeners. If you want to connect with Moonlit, you can also head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Moonlit's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I just really want to thank Moonlit today for taking the time to share her story and wisdom with us on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Moonlit.
Thank you, Sheena. Thank you for the opportunity. Always lovely to speak with you.
Not a problem. It's always great to chat with you as well. And thanks again for being on the show. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. You can now purchase Bridging the Confidence Gap: How Empowered Women Change the World on Amazon, Barnes& Nobles, Indigo, and other book retailers sold worldwide. Get your copy today. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to get your daily boost of confidence.